All right, hello everybody, welcome. I'm a couple minutes late. George is a definite maybe. He's on the road, so he's got an invite and hopes to join us. But we'll see what happens. He's in Georgia right now, so it's always hit or miss when George is in Georgia. Today was red. Let's see. Hey, Space Oddity. Hey, Martin. Hello, Steve. Brent. Welcome. Nate. Kevin. Hello. Oh, somebody beat me to it. Steve said to get more people here, can we all smash the like button? Thank you, Steve. I'll press the button. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. We definitely noticed that on the stream. If everybody hits the like button, we get a lot more people and have a more active stream. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Hello. Hello, Martin. Let's see. Space Oddity markets cower before the Fed meeting. Yeah, that's out there. The Fed meeting's out there. We got a few things out there. I feel like that one's a potential whammy. I've just finished a video on that, but it's probably not going to get posted until after this stream, obviously, since I'm doing this right now. But yeah, that's a potential whammy. Let's see. Nate's asking, any chance you could talk about or do a video on regarding what is going on with Core's Q and the known bankruptcy details. Made some good profits running from 6 cents to selling today at 34 cents. Yeah, I mean, Core's continues to run like crazy. Even on, this was pretty much a straight up red day. Oh, Iris Energy somehow ended up 0.2% at the end of the day. But other than that, this was red. This was a beatdown. And yet Core Scientific's up 42%. So anybody who knows what's going on with Core Scientific, I haven't done a video on them in a bit. I look on, and I haven't seen any big news. So if you guys know something specific, drop it in the comments and let me know, and I would definitely be glad to take a look and do a video on that, because that is some crazy price action. I know, to me, I wrote that stock off as a swing trade or a day trade, so I know some people are making money. It's gone a lot further than I thought it was going to go, so let's just actually look at that one for a minute. Yeah, this was all the way back. Well, this is the month of January. So what have they done? I mean, all the Bitcoin miners have done well, but this run, well, let's just do the last 4 days for starters. It's just the last 4 days. That's 233% in the last 4 trading days. I mean, this thing's on fire. Hey, Keith, Craig, Sourmelon Gaming, Adam, welcome. TP says ready for 30. Jeff, hey, welcome. Daywalker, welcome. Ed C, welcome. Talking investing to 100K subs, says Jeff. All right, you say so. Yeah, let's do it. If you're not subscribed, you can hit the subscribe button. So I don't know what's going on in the month of January. There's like a subscriber shortage. We slowed down. I feel like everything slowed down. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. So you can like and subscribe. We got a lot of people we got 29 likes. It helps the stream get more people on the stream, so I appreciate it. Sanity's Eclipse asks, what are your thoughts on Bit Digital? Bit Digital, I bought, so that's BTBT. I bought 7,000 shares at 53 cents. Yeah, well, you timed that well. So they're $1.44 right now. So we'll talk about them in today's stream. I mean, they have a very strong balance sheet. I like them. They're not in my top 8 stocks. I'm kind of neutral on them, but I think they have a strong balance sheet, and they're one of the ones that I would say is not in danger. You know, we're kind of not talking about a crypto winter now because all of a sudden we've had one good month. So obviously, let's hope that keeps running. But today is an indication that we don't know. You know, we don't know. Is this a relief rally? Is this the beginning of a new bull cycle? It's too soon to call. But I will say, I'm going to go look at this. This is the biggest rally we've had since Bitcoin 69,000, which was in November. What is the? Oh, this is the wrong. So hold on. All right. So as of the close today, this is now a 47% rally, but as of yesterday, as of the peak, so from the bottom to the top, if that was the top, I'm not convinced that was the top yet. I don't think this rally's over yet, but if it is, then this was a 55% rally. That is the biggest rally by far that we've had since October, November 2021. So is this the beginning? You know, is this the beginning of a new cycle? Obviously, things turned around today in the middle of the night last night, and I put a video out yesterday afternoon, and I just said, everybody watch out. This always happens on the weekend. A big pump on Saturday and Sunday, and then sometime overnight before the markets open up, the equity markets in the U.S., on Monday morning, there's usually a big dump, and that is what happened today, and it just kept going. So this is the 1-day candle. Let me go to the 15-minute. This just kept going down all day, and it hit some key areas. It broke through one thing that I considered, you know, I was hoping would turn into support, but it didn't. And it has not yet hit my other line that if it breaks that line, I'm going to be worried. So this is zoomed in on the 15 minutes. So the orange line, as always, for those of you familiar with the channel, that is where Bitcoin was when the equity markets closed last. So on this case, on a Monday, that's where Bitcoin was when the U.S. equity markets closed on Friday. So even most of the trading day today, we were at or near. Hey, hold on. Time out. And we have George. George, you're live.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Really, really good.
Really good. That's good.
I feel like I'm in outer space.
Oh, you look like you're in out. How's the weather up there?
Rainy with a chance of meatballs. Sorry, I won't hijack. Keep going.
No, that's all right. I'm going to catch up on some of these comments. So anyway, so what I was saying is we traded around this. This is where we closed Friday. We traded around here, and then all of a sudden, this was at 2 p.m. Eastern time, so 2 hours before the U.S. equity markets closed. This just took a giant turn to the downside, and we haven't gotten back above this, so we'll see. So the two lines, I was hoping we could hold this green line at 23.2-ish, and that did not happen. We broke above that line over the weekend. We got almost up to 24,000. We got to 23,966 this weekend. So did not hit 24,000, but very close. And then we pulled back, and now this line seems like it turned back into resistance. This was resistance for a bit. We tried to hit this here and here. There was a couple of fake outs, and then really this was a giant fake out. because we have pulled back. So the line I'm looking at, the next line I said is I really think this line at 22.4 needs to hold, the purple line right here. So that's the one I'm looking at. If not, then my next line's about $1,000 down from there.
I have a question. What is our pullback right now, percentage-wise, from the top to the bottom?
From the top, just from a couple days ago to now?
No, to whatever we got. Yeah, just a couple of days ago, the 24,000.
So let's go.
Because I'm going to do some Fibonacci.
You're going to go ahead and get the Fibonacci's out?
Yeah, I'm going to get the Fibonacci's going.
I'm going to call it 6% from the top to the bottom. So we pulled back around 6%. We're a little bit up off of that right now from the top. So, yeah, so it's not like this is a massive pullback. It's just we've been on the run. This run in January has been relentless. I mean, we have this one red candle here of significance. I mean, these candles are basically, and this is the daily candle, so, you know, there were days where we basically went sideways, but there's only been a couple of days that have any significant red candles. This is the biggest one by far, and it's ending soon, so this looks like it's going to be our first big red candle. I'm still saying we're going to 25. I did have some people telling me, no, we're not going to 25.
Did you say we're still, you think we're still going to 25 right now?
I did say that. I think we're not done. We're going to get to 25 before we get to wherever we're going next. You think we topped out? That was it. I mean, that was basically.
I think what you saw is a diving board. And that was the last bounce on the diving board, that green line. And now we're going to go way down.
All right. Well,
we're going into the pond.
Just to be clear, George did call 23,500 as the top long before we got there. So if this holds, you know, we will have only had one day that went above that, and then we turned around.
Here's what I'm saying. You ready?
Ready.
I can't make a price prediction until the end of the week. I think we're going to bounce around right now. I don't think it's going to dive off, honestly. I think we're just going to bounce around.
So, no destruction this week, in your opinion?
No, I'm not saying that. I said I can't give you a price prediction until Uncle Fed. That's correct. It all depends on Uncle Fed.
Well, there's no doubt that is a huge, huge thing coming up, and the thing is, I feel like there's not a lot of upside to this Fed meeting because everybody has already changed their expectations so drastically. I do a deep dive video I'm going to put out right after this stream on this subject, but everybody's changed their opinion so much. The expectation is so high that it's going to be a good meeting that, you know, even if it is a good meeting, all we did was meet expectations. So I just feel like this is one of those scenarios where it's either meet expectations or do worse. And I think if we do worse, then I think we got, at least for the short term, a pretty heavy pullback coming.
I forgot to tell all our Canadian friends, I actually hired a Canadian person today because I respect all the Canadian people on this stream, and thank you. I have so many good Canadian friends. I'm like, this guy's got to be cool.
We have.
So I hired him.
You found that person through the internet, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, he's another program. I've gone through, I mean, what, how many programmers? 6, 7, 8?
It's relentless.
Programmers are like a dime a dozen.
It is one of the hardest things to find, is somebody that actually programs.
Wow.
Let's see. I just got lost.
But my thing, Tom, is I don't think we're only going to see, I think the next 6 months, about 6 months, is going to really determine the future of Bitcoin and the stock market, by the way. I believe the stock market could be just a crazy wild ride up and down for the next 6-7 months.
So
that's into almost 24.
For most of 2020, because that'll put us in Q3 of 2023.
Yeah, I'm thinking it'll break loose around the 3rd or 4th quarter of 23.
And that lines up again with what is the Fed going to do, because the people are convinced the Fed is going to start lowering rates in, say, June or shortly thereafter. But that is not what the Fed has been saying at all. The Fed's been saying the exact opposite of that. So the question is, what are we going to go? Is this going to stop the madness with the rate hikes? And are we going to start to get some drops in the rate? Or is this going to keep going? I mean, Jerome Powell has all but promised, 2023, we can't lower rates. We got to keep raising rates. And
yeah,
now he's got to say that.
Well, you realize what we're coming up against, right? We're coming up against, if we keep going up on the interest rates, we are going to be at a point where we're going to pay more in interest in the United States than anything else. I think it was another half a point. If we go up another half a point, and just so everybody knows, if anybody pays attention to this stuff like Tom and I does do. We look at like the budget, like those magic numbers that they throw around, $1.7 trillion, and we actually try to look at where that money's going. We try not to laugh and cry at the same time. It's hard to do, but we do both laugh and cry at the same time. And it's just so sad.
I just
go ahead.
Today they just came out and said, "Oh, we're not going to shut the government down. We're gonna hash all this out. We're gonna have an answer. No, don't worry about it."
But that's I worry about that statement more than anything.
Well, exactly. I think that's what people are more worried about.
I mean, Tom and I we've been talking about this for a long time now, and this is kind of the reason why we started talking investing. Is the can has been kicked down the road since 2008. Whether you want to agree with me or not agree with me, everybody has to agree that our debt has gotten to a point where now we're in a bad situation. We're paying a lot of money now on interest.
Which, for a while, they got interest rates down near zero.
Yeah.
So, we got away with that for a period of time, but that does not work so well at 5 or 6%. So,
and this is why I love Bitcoin also. This is the reason why Bitcoin is why I think Bitcoin is kind of like the smartest investment that you can make. And I believe it will outperform gold too here in probably about 4-ish years.
You mean
24? No, it's going to take 7 years before it will outperform gold.
7 years. And when you say outperform, you mean become larger in market cap than gold.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's a big run up, because I think gold is like 30. That's a 30x from here. But I think a lot of people are that's not. Kathy Woods thinks it's going to be more than that.
My next statement. I believe that the whole real estate. I believe that the whole stock market is broken, and it needs to make a correction around 50%. That's what I believe. The problem is, Tom, what happens if that happens?
I mean, that's bad. That's bad news.
Yeah.
That's bad. We already had, that's financial crisis 2.0. We already had one of these 15 years ago, and, it set a generation of people back a decade. But those people, if the 50-somethings, 60-somethings, if they get set back another decade with one of those whammies, that's going to be very rough for all
that's
involved.
What I believe, and I believe it's designed that way. I think there's only a few cryptocurrencies that you can invest in, and a lot of them are going to have some ups and downs. But I think overall, once we get past this, these projects that are coming out, I think that they're really gonna be good, and that's one of the reasons why I like XRP. Sorry.
George is a well-known XRP fan.
I like XLM too. I mean,
XRP, XLM. How do you feel about Ethereum?
Litecoin. I mean, there's a lot of great things. A lot of great coins. I mean, from top 20 and above, I can understand. 20 and below, dude, it's the wild, wild west.
Yeah, things drop off in a hurry over in cryptocurrency world.
My buddy is. I'm starting to become a fan. I can't even believe I'm going to say this.
I don't know what's
King
coming.
Richard.
Of what?
Does anybody know who that is?
King Richard? Is that what you said?
Yes, King
that,
Richard. Hopefully, let's see.
Streamer,
Hopefully somebody knows who that is.
YouTuber, TikTok, what?
Yep.
All of the above?
He was an early adopter on Bitcoin.
I don't know King Richard. Does anybody know King Richard?
That's the question. Does anybody know King Richard? And he does have a top, I'll say a top 20 coin, because I know it's been hovering around between 8 and 14.
What?
So it depends on what the other guys have done, where he is right now. But it's real interesting. He's got a very good, what I like about him, and I mean, the guy's so obnoxious. You got to understand, he's super, super obnoxious.
This is a project that he's behind.
This is an obnoxious person saying that about somebody else. But he has a great, there he is, King Richard. Yep. That's him, King Richard. His use case scenario is really, really good. For his hex. And for
hex?
his coin is hex, yeah.
All right.
Tom's like, Tom, once you
if
get deep into crypto and you understand what's going on, you start talking to other people like Tom's in stocks. I don't really know a lot about stocks. I know a lot about different cryptos. That's my forte, I think. Just because I'm like anybody else, I go and I start researching and researching and researching. And, there's a lot of bad reasons. I can understand why people don't like XRP. I can give you 18 billion reasons right now. I think they got an 18 billion coin drop next month. So I mean, that's a lot of coins,
That's a lot of the problem with a lot of these coins is supply is an unknown. And in many cases there's more there's more to be issued than has been issued. I think in XRP, it's about 50-50 right now, if I'm right.
Yeah. Yep.
But you don't know. One of the things that can be a catalyst for these things is if the project starts burning a lot of coins or, puts them away, that changes the entire economics of the situation. So, and a lot of these tokens are doing that, but what you worry about and what I don't worry about with Bitcoin is we know Bitcoin, 21 million. That's it. We know approximately when they're going to be out. Most of them are already out right now. The rest are going to trickle out for like the next 100 years, I think, effectively. So even Ethereum, now we're kind of getting a sense it's not very inflationary since the merge. But that was a big question mark. Is this gonna increase the supply? Is it gonna decrease the supply? What's it gonna do? So those kind of question marks are disturbing.
Tokenomics.
King Richard who? Tennis coach of the Williams sisters? No, that's a different King Richard.
I don't even know who that guy is. This is a guy who's an early adopter of Bitcoin. So, I mean, that's why you got to give him some mad props, because he was smart enough to see what Bitcoin was going to do. And he's just, he's taken most of his Bitcoin money and put it into his own coin.
So this is not a coin that he likes. It's his coin.
Right.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what I'm telling you.
Just going back to that
15-minute
chart.
I'm telling you that.
Miner Doc said Richard Hart? Question mark.
That's his name. Yeah.
Richard That's Hart. Him? That's him. All right. So Miner Doc's got it. Space out of King Richard
Tom,
who?
Tom, do we hear a deep dive?
Into King Richard?
You will spin your head if you try to understand that freaking coin.
Hex. H-E-X.
Yeah. Hex. So what did the market end up doing today anyways?
Red. The Dow was red. The NASDAQ was red. The S&P was red. Bitcoin was red. All the Bitcoin miners were red, except for Core Scientific, which went off again today. So for those of you who weren't here, I'll just take a quick look. Core Scientific in the last 4 trading days is up 233%. So
Wow.
this is what can happen with these coins, and that's why, you know, a lot of people, you don't know when. You know, there's no guarantee. But the thing is, this is how the Bitcoin miners behave, especially when they've been knocked down to a level where they're down 90 or 95, or in Core Scientific's case, they were down over 99%. So you can have a lot of 200% run-ups, and still, you can see there's still a gigantic gap back to where they were in October, and that's after this 233% run up. They would still have to run up another 140% just to get back there. So and that was their all-time low on that day. So a lot of these companies have an awful lot of room to the upside. So even some of the companies that I don't necessarily love, I did do a marathon video today, and I would submit to you that even with all my hesitations on Marathon, there's potential huge upside with Marathon. So I don't invest in them, and I'm actually thinking about it. Although I have so many question marks with them that, let me know in the comments what you guys think about if you've seen my Marathon video, or if you read their SEC filing with what they're doing with this limited liability partnership. Let me know your thoughts.
But don't you agree, Tom? That could be, you know, with Core Scientific, it could go up or down now, right? I mean, it's had a nice little push.
Look at this. This was December. So in December, here's 4 days. Up 330%, and then boom, literally the next 4 days, down 90%. So these stocks take vicious, and obviously CORZQ is a little bit of a different situation than most of the rest of the Bitcoin miners. They're in Chapter 11, so, you know, they could end up anywhere, and that's what this volatility is reflecting. You know, any bit of optimism, and people think, well, you know, let's go to 100x, and some pessimism, oh, it's going to 0. And I think we're going to continue to have a lot of volatility, regardless.
Nothing. Hang on. Let me mute myself. You're fine.
Jeff is saying, if you need to burn vast amount of tokens, you're a failed project. So, I mean, if you need to burn vast amount of tokens, to me, that's highly questionable. So I agree. I don't know who's going to fail and who's going to succeed. I suspect the vast majority of these coins, 99% of the coin, and I'm talking about the bigger pool of, you know, 20,000 tokens and coins. I would say the vast majority of those are gone, you know, sooner than later in the next couple of years. But there will be those that survive. But to me, I need to, if I can't, like Jeff is saying, like if you're just hoping or counting on, you know, that's the Shiba Inu type of thing. Like, you know, oh, it's a 10,000th, 100,000th of a penny, but if it just gets to a penny, I'll be rich. It's like, okay, but it's not getting to a penny. So,
well, and wouldn't you say that someone's getting, and it better not be me?
Exactly.
I mean, there's going to be, the people that lent money. I mean, here's what's good when you think about this. Look at it this way. In a course of investing, especially 22 was such a rough year, is these guys, whoever invested in them, are going to lose millions and millions of dollars. They're going to have to write off how many millions, Tom?
I mean, it depends on the...
How much debt did they have altogether?
Over $1 billion.
Right. Okay. So that means that somebody lent them $1 billion. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is real dollars. It doesn't matter. I mean, so when you feel bad if you lost money last year, realize some investment banker is losing $100 million on a deal with Core.
And it was spread out a bunch. Yeah, they had several large loans. Some of them were convertible notes. Some of those people are going to hope to get, 80 cents back on the dollar or 50 cents back on the dollar, or who knows. But that's why this is such a volatile thing. Nobody has any idea what those answers are, and until we really know the final answer, we don't know if there's anything left over for shareholders. I
have to flex. Hang on.
That's your Fortnite shirt.
Look at that.
Do you still have the tag on your shirt?
Oh yeah. Oops. Yeah. My daughter got it for me for Christmas.
Very nice. George
Still
is
have the tag though.
George is a gamer.
How large I am.
Yeah. What was that? A triple, quadruple, extra large?
Sorry, I had to flex that. You know how much this stupid shirt was?
I do not. You're not supposed to tell you how much a shirt was if it was a present.
What's the point of flexing if I don't tell you how much the shirt was?
Go ahead. How much was this shirt?
$200 freaking dollars.
Are you kidding me?
I knew you would be like that.
That's outrageous. Where's the better have come with a suit or a Bitcoin?
A girlfriend, the lady of the night, exchanging.
I got
stuff for ladies of the night. Sorry,
I had to pull the George button out.
Uh-oh, Jeff is hoping we get 50 basis points.
Everybody, if you could please do me a favor and smash the like button, do us a favor. We got 49 likes, which is awesome, but it helps the stream a lot. So welcome to all.
Just so you know, Tom, I liked it.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it. Much appreciated. And if anybody that's new here, welcome. A lot of members are here, so I appreciate that. I got to catch up on some of the chat. And a lot of subscribers are here, so thank you to everybody. Welcome to everybody. This is an impromptu, but I'm going to be doing more of these because right now I just think the first quarter of 2023 is going to be nuts. And this was not what I was hoping for today, but I want to talk about it because I don't think it's the end of the world yet. I'm going to do a poll right now, in fact, because that was one of the main things I wanted to do was kind of get everybody else's sense where they think we're going next. So I'm going to just take 1 second and put a poll together. Oh, that works now. It's touchscreen. I'm on a new level. Okay, we'll do a simple one. Start super simple. Bitcoin 25K, yes or no? So essentially, do you think the relief rally is over and that was that? Or are we going up from here? Do we still have 25K in us? And I will tell you, and let me go to my chart because I'm seeing the same thing. I'm just not ready to talk about it yet. But, somebody left in the comments, 25... There's a gigantic gap, and you can see that. No, that's not what I would do.
Ooh, I'm wrong again. I'm on the wrong side of this poll, Tom.
I mean, it's early. You can see above my purple line at 25,200, which essentially was just getting. I think we're getting back to where we got in this August rally. This was a big rally. It was like a 43% rally. We got up to 25,000. We've had a series of unfortunate incidents in Bitcoin and the world since then. I feel like we're going to go back and test that line. But this person was pointing out is, look, there's a gap above that. And we've talked about this before. Almost up to 29,000. Bitcoin has never traded other than these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. That's the only time. Then you got to go back. And I think there were 2 or 3 days over here. So there have been like 8 days in the history of Bitcoin that have traded between 25 and 29,000. So Bitcoin doesn't spend time there. If it does this time, that will be a first. So a lot of people are anticipating, maybe when if and when, whether or not it's this push or the next one, you know, that gap could get filled quickly. That's what often happens with these gaps, but there's no guarantee.
I'm just sorry. I'm reading the notes, and I was reading what Alberto wrote. Heller, he's running 200 S19s.
Oh, nice.
That thing's got a spin. How much gigawatts do you have for that?
1.21.
Is it just one? And are you making any money at 23? Where are we right now? 23? Are you making money? He thinks he's hoping for 16. And he's following my logic and saying short term it's going lower, long term bullish, 200-day moving average, 3-day chart.
I still think that if you ask most people, long term, they're bullish on Bitcoin. I don't, you know, not everybody, but I think the majority of people think that eventually this is going to go to much higher places. But, you know, the way these cycles go, it could be who knows how long in between. I think we're about ready.
2 megawatts an hour. I'd love to see that. How much you pay per kilowatt? That's insane. Can you imagine?
Jeff
what
says,
was your entry port in, Alberto? What did you get in at? Oh, 11K, 11. His break even is 11 cost production.
From the machines.
Yeah, from the machines, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's healthy.
That's not bad at all.
Do you hodl? Or do you sell?
I would be hodling right now, but
$50 per megawatt. Is that per day? Probably. Yeah, that's probably per day. 2020, I entered. Oh, it's hodl. So I went to my local town to try to do a deal in Georgia, and I got the old stiff arm.
Rejected
hard. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would have sold at 69 because I just know who I am. There's no way I would have kept.
They kind of strung you along there, and then it was all of a sudden like a big nope. We're not having machines in this particular town's downtown. So I won't.
Would you still get in, Alberto? Would you still mine right now? Would you go and if you had 100,000, or let's just say $1 million, would you take and put that into mining Bitcoin, or would you take and directly buy Bitcoin? That's the question. Because right now I'm directly buying Bitcoin, I think. I don't know.
All right, this vote is getting a lot closer. So if you haven't voted, vote. We're looking, are we going to 25,000 or is the run over? So we got a bunch of votes in. It's tightening up.
I guess just so you know, the parameters are he's saying which are we going like next, right?
Yeah, I'm saying next. Yeah, we may go down tonight or tomorrow. I'm just saying in this run, in the next week or two, are we going to get to our price target of 25,000? Or was yesterday the top and now we're headed back down to lower points? That is the question.
Tom's going to do a side-by-side video with somebody where somebody is saying Bitcoin's going to $3,700.
George has watched the video. He told me about it. I haven't seen it yet, but I would like to hear.
It's a well-known economist, too. It's not a guy who's an idiot. Well, I mean, he could be an idiot now, but he wasn't when he made his predictions before. You know what I mean?
Just because you're a well-known economist doesn't mean you're not an idiot. That's not the official position of talking investing. Jeff saying the Fed's most concerned with unemployment numbers. I mean, that's what they're talking about. And the unemployment numbers have been just fine. So that gives them cover to keep raising rates. So, I mean, that may be your point, Jeff. I mean, everyone's convinced this 25 basis points is a done deal. I think there's a reasonable chance it's 50 basis points. If I had to bet money right now, I would say 25 just because it's such a strong consensus. But I do think that 50 is, you know, it's a reasonable possibility. It's not like some one in a million outlying event. I think that could very well happen.
It's Shaman. Shaman. Did I say it right that time? That's funny. He's buying Bitcoin too. I'm trying to do an honest mix right now instead of being one way or another. You know what I mean?
Talk about AMZ. AMZ.
I didn't even talk about AMZ.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I will. My family just came home.
Space Oddity saying, if everybody thinks we're going to 25, be happy with 24.
I know, but you guys were. I was lonely. So
that's usually a good policy.
Did you hear me, Tom?
What?
No, my wife gave me a rough time. You guys don't know what I have to put up with to get on the stream.
The concessions
you have to
make.
And Tom follows the difficulty like a hawk on Bitcoin miners.
Yeah, I got a lot of that up in some tabs in the background right now. And the difficulty level, I mean, if you look at the difficulty level and if you look at the global hash rate, that would tend to indicate that Bitcoin is going up over time. But, you know,
I'm going to run away, guys. It was good talking to you.
George, thanks for joining us. Hold on. Wait. There it is. The George button. All right.
Remember Fortnite.
All right, George, we'll see ya. All right, that was George's visit. I wasn't sure he was going to make it, but he got here. Let's see. If unemployment stays too low, inflation cannot go down, said Jeff. Half a point. We're getting some 50 basis points. We're getting some 50 basis point votes. Hello, Kyle. Welcome. And Ray, welcome. Kyle from what I refer to as Quebec. Although I've heard it both ways. Space Oddity, the Fed is the biggest market manipulator of all time. I mean, they know what they're doing. So if they do 50 basis points, they know full well that is going to tank the market. So the question is, do they care? Oh, Ray is asking, where, George and Tom, where exactly are you? So at the moment, George, the answer is Florida in general, but George does go back and forth to Georgia a lot. He lived in Georgia for a bunch of years. He's got a business still up there. So right now, George is in Georgia, and that's why it's harder for him to get on the stream. Just to get from one place to the next where he is with his business. Everything's an hour and a half ride. It's crazy. So I'm spoiled. It's not the traffic's real good down here. Let's see. The Federal Reserve is neither federal nor holds reserves. LOL. Talk amongst yourselves. Jeff is saying yes or yes? Yes? All right, let me get to the bottom and catch up here. Sorry. Finding my place. Yeah, we got a lot of people in the chat saying they're looking for 50 basis points. So maybe that should have been my poll. Are we going to do 50 basis points? I will tell you, I don't want to belabor it because I got a video that I just made on this that's coming out after this, but that's a big concern of mine. The market is not ready for a 50 basis point rate hike on Wednesday. That is going to be a shock to the system if that happens, in my opinion. Ray said, that's great, nice weather in Florida. Yeah, we got some nice weather right now, enjoying the weather. We've had a couple of what I say are cold days, but they're not really cold days. But we got down into maybe 3 weeks ago, we were down in the 40s for a bit. So that's cold. I mean, it's not freezing, but it's cold. It counts. J Arms Z says, I really enjoy your videos on Bitcoin miners, by the way. Lots of great info to absorb. Thanks for all your hard work. You are welcome. Thank you. Glad to do it. I enjoy it. I hope you guys get some value out of it. Guys everywhere in the world, we are long in Bitcoin. We need to have more pain is our biggest opportunity. We already saw the floor of Bitcoin, 16,000. And now we go to 18,000. That's Alberto. Oh, that was to the George picture from Jeff. Gotcha. Space Oddity saying, I hope we get 50 basis points. That is definitely turning into a theme. You guys are... So, this group is more open to that than the vast majority of the entire market, because it's very close to 99%. In fact, it just slipped a little bit today. On Friday, 100%, the market had a 100% chance built in that we were going to get a 25 basis point rate hike or less. There was 1% that thought it was going to be 0. So those people have sometime between Friday and Monday. Those people gave up. But, I mean, that's how much this is priced in. Space Oddity saying 50 basis points and 19K Bitcoin would be just fine. And that's entirely possible. I mean, 19K is down at this green line. What kind of pullback would that be from here? So that'd be a 15% pullback in Bitcoin from where we are right now. And those are that's one of the lines I think we could definitely hit. I mean, we are getting awfully close. This is on the 1 day. This is the line I've been saying for over a week. We need to hold this line as support if we want to get to 25,000. If we go below here, then I think we can still get to 25,000, but it's going to be a longer journey, because my next line that I think is of any relevance is at 21,400. So, you know, we'll see. I mean, this is a long run, and we're getting a little bit ripped off. It's January 30th. This was shaping up to maybe be possibly the best January in the history of Bitcoin, but not after today. But it's still probably going to be the second best January, unless tomorrow is catastrophic. So hopefully I can just jinx it. All right, we got 63 likes. We're doing good. Thank you, everybody. Anybody who hasn't liked, check it out. Anybody who hasn't voted, vote, if you would, on the Bitcoin. So the vote is Bitcoin 25K ? And the poll is fairly close still. It's by no means, it's not over. So if you hadn't voted, check it out. So this is super close. I didn't think it was going to be close, but it is. So Jeff's saying, I don't think we spend any time at 25. I think the next push we go right to 29. So that is that gap that I was looking at. Really, from 25, there's almost no resistance up to 29. So that is definitely possible. I'm focused on getting to 25. I think we're going to meet some heavy resistance here. If we don't, then you're right. This is a giant gap up to virtually 29,000 that there's just no resistance in here at all. And so that would be my next leg up. But, you know, 43% of you think we're going down from here. So I just felt like it's too soon to talk about my next price target until we hit the price target that I've been heading towards. I had two price targets. We got one of them, 22,430. That was one of my purple lines. So we did get to that one. My next one was 25,200. That's really where I thought the rally would end, and we would meet some resistance and at least have to reset a little. And really, it's because of this. This is the daily RSI. So you can see this tanked today. This has been in overbought territory. I mean, historically overbought territory. So for those of you, a lot of you know exactly what this is. For those of you who don't follow this, essentially, the higher this number gets, the more selling pressure there is. So at 70 is considered the threshold of being overbought. 30 is considered, and this varies from stock to stock and you know, commodity to commodity, but in general, 30 is considered oversold territory, anything under 30. Well, we got up to almost 90. So the last time we got up to 90 on the daily RSI was in January of 2021. So that was 2 full years ago. And that's when we ran from like 20,000 to 40,000 and then to 60,000. So That's the last time we've been up here. And we've been here for, let's see, that's the 14th. So, you know, we've been here for 2 weeks. We've been at this massive number. And I did feel like, you know, this could, when you have a run like this, sometimes this can go for 3 or 4 weeks. But you can see today was a change. We are now out of overbought territory. But it just feels more likely when this starts to happen, it feels more likely that we're going to go down and reset than it does that we're going to go back up. But I'm not ready to call it. But we're starting to see signs. I mean, this was a big sign that, yes, I thought there was room left to run, but that we were running out of runway, in my opinion. So, and then you'll see, so today, this is a bearish crossover on the MACD. So I don't know if that's candles closed yet to be confirmed, but it looks like that's what's going to happen. So, you know, those are some short-term. This still does not mean we're turned around and now everything's negative and we're going back to 15,000. But in the short term, you know, a bearish crossover is not a good thing. The last time that happened, it was very neutral. We just hung sideways for a long, long time. So, you know, let's hope maybe we just get some consolidation and take another leg up. That is a possibility. But some of these are warnings that, you know, maybe the end of this run is near. And it's a good, if that's what it was a good run. It was a 55% to the top. So, you know, I can't complain about that, but it would be better if it would get to 25, in my opinion. And then obviously, you know, it depends on what a lot of people are saying. Yeah, I'd like to get back to 16. Those always represent nice buying opportunities, but it is difficult, you know, on people's, you know, there's a lot of financial things at risk here. So it's, you know, a lot of people lose sleep on the way down. So hopefully you guys are investing money in a way where you don't lose sleep regardless of what happens in the market, because the market is the ultimate wild card. And Bitcoin, as we know, the cryptocurrencies are even more volatile than the rest of the market. So if you want it, I'm just going to put this in the, I think I'm going to put this in the chat. Yeah, if you would like to be a member, tomorrow is Tuesday. Tomorrow is our members only live stream. So I put a link in the description. If you would like to be a member, it's $5 a month. We have a bunch of content in there. We have a good live stream every Tuesday after the market closes, and we pick a stock each week for me to do a deep dive on. So we have a lot of fun. We're building up some really good content, and it's helps support the channel. So anybody interested, there is a link in the description. I appreciate it. Craig said EWW. Is that a ticker or is that a statement? Oh, Philly destroyed my team. The Giants. Oh, we're talking football. Yeah, my team did not make it. So, born and raised in upstate New York, just about an hour away from where Buffalo plays their games. So I went to a lot of Buffalo games growing up, and we thought this was our year. But as Bills fans, we always think that this is our year. And so far, we've been wrong every single time forever. Let's see. Kyle's saying, not that it will change the value of the market cap, but only 2 more closes above $1 until Bitfarm resets its NASDAQ notice. 10 days closing above $1. I think that's exactly right. And even on a down day, you'll notice on a down day, Bitfarms today held on just about the strongest out of all of the Bitcoin miners. So I do think we're going to get that 10-day streak. You know, I hope there's not too much bad news later this week. I would hate for them to get to 9 days or something like that and then have to press reset. However, either way, I think that for me personally, I think Bitfarms is so undervalued even at $1 when it was in the it was under 40 cents, I think. I mean, that was, I got to go look. Let's add that line. So it looks like this was its low at 38 cents. I thought I already did this a long time ago, but no, that's got to be red. Whoa. All right, so Bitfarms was at 38 cents. So, you know, Bitfarms has spent almost like Bitcoin. It ran up to this spot, and now it's been consolidating a little bit. But it's holding this line over $1, and that's what it has to do. You see, we lost that one day, or we'd already be there. But we're getting close again. But this was a nice run up. I mean, Bitfarms was up to the top. I mean, to the top, this was a 232% run up for Bitfarms. Even to where we are right now, it's a 180% run up from late December until now. So, you know, any of those of you who were dollar cost averaging in, this company's not alone. More than half of the companies on my list, I follow 18 of these Bitcoin miners. More than half of these were up more than 100% in a 4 or 5 week window. So that is a very, very nice run up. Some of them were up 200%. Some of them were up 300%. And now I'm going to go to DigiHost. DigiHost was down 15% today, but look at the run. And I have to admit, I sold DigiHost, and I split the proceeds and put half in CleanSpark, half in Bitfarms, and that was months ago. So I did not catch this. To the top, which was today, that's 660% run up in a month. I mean, they had one good piece of news, and one of the things is they conduct a lot of business in New York. New York has been very confusing. They put this moratorium out, and so far as I can tell, it affects literally nobody. I have not found one Bitcoin mining company, and it was strongly worded, and it said anybody in permitting, anybody not actively, it looked like it was going to be a giant crackdown in New York. But here DigiHost is opening up, its next giant facility in New York after that moratorium. So it would appear that they remain unaffected. And like I said, I have not yet found somebody who was affected by that. I think DigiHost price, this is why they went down to 20 or 31 cents. I mean, a lot of that, it looked like their plans were ruined. But in the end, their plans were not ruined. So now they've run up to a point that this goes all the way back to, they were just almost hit. This is back to June of 2022. So none of the other Bitcoin miners have gotten back to that spot. So DigiHost this run up was ahead of everybody else by far. Oh, Jeff's asking, did you see the reason for the Lucid pump possibly going private? I saw that later. I had asked the question first. I was watching Lucid pump in real time, and I gave up. I was trying to maybe get in on that, and I said, I missed it, and I let it go. But, yeah, there was rumors that they're going to get bought out and taken private. I find that very hard to believe. I know they have a really nice-looking car, and I think it's a high-end vehicle, but those guys lose a lot of money. They are not even close to break even. And I'm not even talking about break even as a company. I'm talking about getting to the point where they can make 1 penny of profit, gross profit on a car. They are not close to that. So, and that takes a while. We've seen in these EV companies that, Tesla didn't exactly get there overnight. So it takes a long time, and that doesn't mean that they're not going to get there, but I'm just saying, as of now, they are not even in that neighborhood. So I don't know how people are going to buy them for more than, they have a big market cap. I'm just going to look at their market cap because big is a relative term, obviously. Yeah, they have a $21 billion market cap. So is somebody really going to pay $20 or $30 billion and remember, this ran up to a double. So this ran up to almost like 35 or 36 billion dollars one day last week, right? I think that was, yeah. I mean, look at this. This was last Friday? Yeah, I mean, this thing went bananas. So I don't know. I'm worried about Lucid. I'm worried about Rivian in the long term. I'm not sure how I feel about those stocks. Team Bitcoin said, I'll just keep buying Bitcoin to 25K, and any miners that I forgot after that, I just hold. Kyle saying a reverse split is only psychological, but doesn't help the stock price. So I did do an analysis on this, Kyle. You bring up a good point, because obviously it doesn't have anything to do with the market cap, and sometimes there is a short-term effect, so there's an opportunity. Many times, if someone's doing a reverse stock split, I will buy the stock if I think it's a company that's not going out of business. The problem is most companies, by the time they get to reverse stock splits, there's a pretty good chance they're headed towards going out of business. But the Bitcoin miners are a bit of a different phenomenon. All of those companies, you know, were down, I mean, literally between 90 and 99%. So some of the companies that were down 95, 96, 97%, in my opinion, they were at unnaturally low places, and they were staring an equation, and several of them just jumped from, you know, in the 30s to back over $1, so they don't have to do. It looked like a half of these companies were going to have to do a reverse stock split. But the ones that I felt good about, like, you know, I feel great about Bitfarms. That's just my personal opinion. So if they had to do a reverse stock split and their stock got hit, I would have backed up the truck. Because to me, over time, and we saw, so I did the math on Hive in a video prior to this, and, you know, Hive did a reverse split, and everybody went bananas, and everybody said, you know, they're done for, but they actually outperformed the average Bitcoin miner from the day of their reverse split forward. So, you know, it didn't affect them at all. Space Oddity is saying Lucid is no Tesla. I absolutely agree. Jeff is saying Volkswagen and Mercedes will be the #1 top EV players. So, I mean, they're already, Volkswagen's already a monster in the EV sector. The thing with Tesla is, and I don't even like to get into the debate, but the thing with Tesla is they have a lot of other technology they're working on. And, you know, the bull thesis on Tesla is it's not a car company. Yeah, they make cars. Obviously, right now, I would argue it is a car company. That's 99.9% of their sales. So that seems like a car company to me. But I know they're working on a lot of other things and a lot of car-related technology that, you know, it's not there quite yet. And, you know, some of this was promised years ago, and it has not yet been delivered. That doesn't mean they're never going to get there, but, you know, technology works on its own schedule. Nate, the problem with any is that they had the chance to merge with, I believe it was Riot, and at the last minute. Well, understand, so Nate, the one thing I'm going to say about any, which is Sphere 3D, and they were going to mine with Griffin, and now Griffin did just pop up back in. They're gonna merge with somebody else. They're gonna merge with a Mary Jane company. So, and they're going to be, I think, 92.5% of the equity. So really, they're just, to me, that's a shortcut. I don't like that. I don't like these mergers and SPACs where they're shortcuts. They circumvent the system, and, you know, most of those SPACs did not play out. Now, this isn't a SPAC. It's like it's a merger, but, you know, you've got a publicly traded company that's going to represent almost no part of the new company when Griffin merges with them. So I got sidetracked talking about Griffin, but my point on any was that any is under new management. So some of the things that they did in the past that I was highly critical of, that was not this CEO. And I've seen a dramatic change, right? That they got a new CEO. She walked in the door and got a read very quickly on what was reality and what wasn't, and made some major changes. So they're not going to maybe be the size company that they thought they were going to be, or that they were talking about being. They were talking about some ridiculous things. If you guys remember, they put out a press release about a year ago that there was this new machine called the New Miner, And they were buying all of them, $1.8 billion worth, and they were going to be at 32 exahash, and all of that did not come true. So, which I think most people within 24 hours suspected that that was not happening. So anyway, my point is, new management, I do like their company. I don't own their stock right now, but I do like their company. They're small. Obviously, they're now going to be much, much, much smaller than they would have been under any other circumstances. So Brent is saying, I couldn't resist buying some Kern today. So Kern is the company, Kern, that is merging with Griffin Mining. And so that's Griffin's. Ultimately, Griffin's been trying to go public a while. They were going to do it through Any, but I think they decided that previous management with Any is just not something they were comfortable with. So that got undone. So now, yes, stock ticker KERN is going to merge with Griffin. And I think Griffin said they're at 1 exahash right now, I believe. Let's see. Righteous Line Time, what do you think of CleanSpark? I mean, CleanSpark is one of my high conviction stocks. I put out my top 4 list, and I think they were like number 2 on my list. So I remain, you know, for me, I have a high level of conviction in CleanSpark. And they have lagged in this rally. They are very near last place in performance over the last month. Having said that, they're still up 60% or something like that. So let me go take a look at them. So, you know, it's not like they had a bad period. It's just that almost everybody else was up a lot more than this. So this is again from the middle of December until, well, today they ran up and then they came back down. So they were up as much as 81%. They are now up 62%, and they've been hovering around this 60% for a little while now, more than a week. So sometimes a little under, sometimes a little over. And that sounds like a phenomenal run for a month and a half. It's nowhere near what a lot of the other companies did. So I continued to average in. I've stopped buying almost everything, only because, you know, these things are up 100%, 200%, 300%, 400%. To me, that's not your buying opportunity. So I did stop for the most part, but to me, I believe CleanSpark is still going to get its run. So I could be wrong, you know, and maybe this rally is over, and now I'm going to have to wait for it. But you know, I have more shares of CleanSpark, and I'm okay with that. Jeff is saying CleanSpark is the best. Although I know in reality, he believes Marathon is the best. Brent's saying, yes, close to 1 exahash. I think he's talking about Griffin. Jeff is saying Riot is 1, CleanSpark is 2. So that, I'm not sure if he's saying that's his list. That's also my list. And there's a lot of factors that I put into that went into that. So, you know, there's a lot of other companies that could even do better from a stock standpoint than them. But those are the 2 that I felt from a risk-reward standpoint represented the best opportunity for me, in my opinion, and my risk tolerance. Because that's a big factor as well, right? I mean, I do kick myself that I didn't get into Marathon. They had a very, very big and very predictable run-up. They've pulled way back from that, so Marathon's had a couple of red days in a row here, so all of a sudden, but, you know, in 1 month, 200%. And remember, Marathon and Riot, these are not $20 million market cap companies. These runs took both Marathon and Riot back over $1 billion. Marathon's gone below that again, but, you know, at the peak, this got them back over $1 billion company. And remember, they were a $7.5 billion company in November of 2021. So even after a 205% run-up, they were still down, you know, 75, 80, more than 80%. So, and now they've pulled back. So now they've pulled back, you know, they've had about a 25% pullback altogether. That's not a big deal. If for some reason they pull all the way back, this might be a stock I start averaging into. And to me, it'll be the most speculative one. This is one of those love them or hate them companies. And I'm on the fence. I'm neither of those things. I think this is a big risk reward company. I think if they do their thing, if they do what they said they were going to do, the upside on this could be monstrous, but I don't have a high level of confidence that they're going to do that. I'm not saying they're not going to. I'm much more confident. Riot has a better track record of doing what they say they're going to do. So operationally, they've been more consistent. They've been a little more conservative on their goals, and they've hit their targets a little more realistically. So, you know, it's a more conservative, safer bet, but that doesn't mean it's better for everybody. That's why I like it, in my opinion. Jeff saying, I'm fine with CleanSpark lagging for a while longer. Haha. I assume you're probably accumulating. Jeff saying, Riot and CleanSpark just have the best management team, in my opinion, always executing at a higher level. Yeah, I mean, I think those two had very good operational. This is one of the good things about the Bitcoin mining space. You know, almost all of these companies put out a monthly operational update, and you get some good information out of those. And you also get to compare company to company and see how people are doing versus what they said they were going to do. And there were 3 or 4 companies that, despite the fact that 2022 was an absolutely brutal year in the stock market, and even more so for the Bitcoin mining companies, there were 3 or 4 that operationally, they killed it all year. They did fantastic. So, you know, to me, those companies that in the worst of times still, you know, did what they said they were going to do, or in some instances, really, with CleanSpark, they did more than they said they were going to do. So, you know, and without running the risk, in my opinion, they didn't do so much that they ran the risk of having to go Chapter 11, which is what happened to Core Scientific. So that's the line you got to balance, but I feel like they did a great job balancing that. But they're lagging, so I'm still accumulating. Let's see. Cipher management team looks very good to me. So Cipher is like the new player in the game. They've been public for all year of 2022. But for most of that year, they really weren't operational. So they weren't putting out monthly operational reports, and that's because they weren't mining Bitcoin. Their total lifetime to date Bitcoin prior to the 4th quarter of 2022 was some insignificantly small number. However, they have now started to do their thing. And they were at 2.8 exahash by the end of December. They're expecting to get to 6 exahash. But in the big picture, they have pulled way back on their plans. They were talking about, so again, and there was just a period of hype. This was, you know, in that 2021 period when everything was running. They put out a press release that they were looking to get to 19.2 exahash. And there was a gigantic purchase order that they had, and they said right in there, you know, they put down a very small deposit. It was with a related company, and they had the ability to back out at any time. And that's where most of their hash rate was going to come from. But, so they didn't do any of that. I believe that company didn't even end up making the machine that they were talking about because the economics of making a high-powered machine changed, obviously, when the retail value of those machines started to crash. So they didn't get to where they said they were going to get, but they did make a giant jump in the 4th quarter, and they are on the board. They're a top 10. I think they want to be a top 5. It's tough to be a top 5 Bitcoin miner. This is a competitive list, and we'll see where these companies go. But Cipher has put themselves in a position where, you know, even though they're just getting up and running, they are now in the conversation. So I think a lot of people like Cipher. They did pull back a lot today. They were down 17% today, but they had run up in the last 4 or 5 days. They had a run up that exceeded everybody else's. And they're now the 4th biggest market cap out of all these Bitcoin mining companies. And they are the biggest market cap of any of the Bitcoin mining companies that don't have a Hodl. So, the 3 ahead of them are Riot, Marathon, and Hut 8. And they all have anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So Cipher is in 4th place from a market cap standpoint. That's a little bit of a surprise to me. It's ahead of a lot of companies that I'm surprised that it's ahead of in market cap. But they got a good balance sheet, and it does seem like they're doing a good job. Jeff agrees with Brent. I agree. Cipher is climbing the list. Wolf Capital says Riot. This is the way. J Arms Z, I'm mispronouncing that probably. Germs. Hut has the best management team. So I do like Hut's management team. Hut is a tough one. They've been almost in hibernation, if you will. And then, they had a situation come up with their power company that has gone now into the legal process. So nobody loves that. But they have a super strong balance sheet, and I do think they're going to come up with they're going to pull a few rabbits out of a hat sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, in my opinion. That's just what I think based on what they have publicly said. So that's one of my higher conviction stocks as well. Just strong balance sheet. And they called the crypto winner. Right now, have they waited too long? I thought they would have made a move by now. And they haven't, but I don't know. I mean, they called the beginning of this thing before anybody. Let's see. The thing is, if I go, Team Bitcoin, if I go for a 20x on one Bitcoin miner, I can afford to lose on 19 others. Oh, so I don't know if Team Bitcoin is maybe just buying all the miners. Some of these miners, if you look at these market caps, they're tiny. If you go through this list, I mean, Core Scientific's market cap obviously just grew substantially. It's now back over $100 million, but it was down to like 20 million. Any is in the 20 million area. DigiHost is now 50 million, but that's only because they were 10 million 3 weeks ago. So that's the kind of run they had. I think we looked at them. So this was a tiny market cap, but that's where you can catch. So when people go, oh, you're clickbait, you say something's going to 5x. It's like, well, that just did 5x. And it wasn't in a year or years. It was in weeks. And it's not alone. We've already had many 5x's, 10x's. And in the last bull run, which was just in 2021, we had some 30x's and 40x's in the Bitcoin mining space. So this is the deal. It's feast or famine. And everybody right now, we've all gotten beat up pretty badly in the last 14 months. But those of you who held on, I assume did so because you understand that on the other side of this, it's the ride up is just as crazy as the ride down is. So, yeah, there is big potential in these. Obviously, Bitcoin has to get healthy, and the companies have to execute. So nothing's a given, but we do know a lot of these have already happened. So Nate's asking the break-even point for Mara in terms of Bitcoin mined. So I don't think it's the number of Bitcoin they mine. I think it has to do with their energy cost. And their energy cost, I'm waiting for the fourth quarter. Their energy cost was high, and I got those numbers from the financial statements. A lot of people were mad at the number, but that's the number from the financial statement. So that's not my number for them. That's just their number per their financial statements. So their energy cost was among the highest out of all the Bitcoin miners. I do think there's reasons for that. I think that's going to change over time, which is why I would really rather have them focus on the, their core business. But it's not about how many Bitcoin they mine. A lot of times they're self-curtailing. There's no doubt in my mind. In other words, they're turning machines on and off, based on the spot price of energy at some points. Probably not so much here at 23,000. But remember, we spent the better part of 2 months, plus or minus somewhere around 16,800. So there were companies where it really was not worth turning your machines on at that number. And I think they were one of those companies. Brent said, if Bitcoin does not rise through the next halving, I think some of these miners could disappear. Brent, I mean, I would go a step further. If Bitcoin doesn't have a significant increase by the next halving, almost all of these miners will go out of business. So that doesn't mean that Bitcoin is going to have a big, rise. Those are two possible options, but it's going to be one or the other. Either Bitcoin is going to, and it really kind of has to triple from here for these miners to make sense. And if it doesn't, then I think, yes, the vast majority of these will cease to exist before the halving. If not before, then certainly after. Because remember, the difficulty level continues to increase. It's at an all-time high by far. So it's gotten like 60% more difficult to mine a block in the last just about 1 year. And that's before the halving. So, it's getting more difficult, and then they're going to cut the reward in half. So, my sense is even if Bitcoin doubles from here, that's probably not enough for most of these companies to survive after the halving. So I would expect, either a Bitcoin triple or quadruple, or a bunch of companies go out of business. And I mean, it could be either one. I don't know. I'm bullish on Bitcoin. So you guys know, in my opinion, I think it's going to get where it's going. But we'll see. If a lot of these companies could be a casualty in the middle. That's always a risk. Jeff saying Bitcoin will be around forever. The miners will not. I buy Bitcoin like I buy land to hold for 25 plus years. The miners, by and large, are trading vehicles for Bitcoin beta. Yeah, and I mean, there's no doubt Bitcoin, in theory, if it is what everybody thinks it is and what the bullish scenario is on that, is going to be a store of value. So, and the Bitcoin miners, and in any equity investing, I think for the most part, most people don't think, where's this company going to be 20 years from now, 30 years from now. A lot of people do think, where are they going to be 5 years from now? Some people even are out to 10 years, but that's a very long time horizon for investing. It's almost unrealistic to even try to project what a company is going to be doing, 10 or more years into the future. So yeah, they're definitely different things. In the short term, Bitcoin miners are a highly leveraged play on Bitcoin. So we experienced that to the upside and to the downside, and we've experienced both. And everybody obviously knows we just had an awful lot of leveraged action to the downside over the last year. So if Bitcoin goes to 12K, who will survive? The question is how long does it stay there? Because here's the thing about Bitcoin. The other thing is Bitcoin can flash crash. And I'm going to go back out and I mean, it's not that it can, it's that it does. It has. Oh, this is Marathon. That's why I'm not finding it. That makes sense. So I'm going to zoom in on this. If we have a flash crash, it's not going to put companies out of business. So if Bitcoin visits 15,000 or 12,000, but it's for a day or 3 days, that's not going to matter. But if it does, so this was the FTX situation, and then I'll go back to the flash crash. In the FTX situation, this was a huge pullback to a new low, and that lasted for 2 months. So that's the kind of thing that could potentially, put some of these companies out of business. But a much bigger crash happened back here ending on June 19th. So even on this one day, forget the whole run. So that was a 15% day. It got down to 17,500-ish, but it closed back almost at 19,000. So this is what I'm saying. Like, even on that one day candle, it was $1,500 higher by the end of the day. But you can see this was a brutal, brutal run from June 7th to June 18th. So, but we had a little very strong rally after that. So those are going to be the factors. If we had a run like this, and then like we saw after the FTX situation, we say sideways for a while, some companies aren't going to make it out of that. Some companies may not make it even out of this. So I've given my list of my top 4 are my highest conviction, my top 8, and then I have a bunch of other ones that I'm not concerned about. I have 6 that I think are the most likely to go out of business. So I did a video on all of those, and you can check that out. Let's see. I don't know about that Sanity. Proof of stake won't last very long. So that must be in response. Ethereum already offers more utility. So this is what Sanity's Eclipse says. Ethereum already offers more utility than Bitcoin. After the merge, it will have a much better blockchain to drive growth, and it already innovates at a much faster pace. There are two, all I will say to that is I believe they're two totally different things with different objectives. And so everything that Sanity's Eclipse said is true, but also that adds a lot of risk, right? They are innovators, but they have a series of changes planned to Ethereum, one of which they've already done. So that they did not get the bounce on that like they thought they were going to, but, nothing did. So it may not even be fair to compare that. There's a lot of people that think Ethereum is going to be bigger than Bitcoin. I am not one of those people. I do not believe that any coin or token will ever catch Bitcoin. It was the first, it's the most logical, and it's got such a head start on everybody. That doesn't mean that Ethereum can't be wildly successful, as well as some of the other projects, but they're not going to be 20,000 successful projects, but there'll be a handful of winners, would be my best guess. It's hard to imagine at this point that cryptocurrency, this is not a fad anymore, right? We're way too many layers deep into adoption for this to be a fad that we move out of, in my opinion. So, I mean, it's still pretty early. I think we're 10 or 11 years into this. But, the multiples layers of growth and adoption, and there's a lot more to come, I think, in 2023. I am optimistic about 2023. I'm not saying we're going to the moon. I just think 2023 is going to be a good year. It's going to be a decent year for Bitcoin and a good year for the Bitcoin miners, in my opinion. So I'm bullish for the year, but like I've tried to say all year, the volatility is going to be a factor. It just is. We're living in Bitcoin and the market are in volatile times, and every time the Fed meets for now is always a potential whammy, and every time one of these economic data points come out, it's a potential whammy, right? Let's say CPE goes in the wrong direction next month. That would change the whole game. So this whole rally would end immediately. So there's whammies out there. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think CPE is going to be just fine. And I don't mean it misses by 0.1%. I mean, if it takes a turn, in the other direction significantly, then that would be a massive longer term blow to the market, because it would totally change the narrative on what the Fed is going to do. So we're very dependent. We've spent a year plus now really just being dictated by the Fed. On top of that, we've had a few disasters happen in the cryptocurrency world. So we got the Fed working against us. We've had a few crypto disasters. And so we took a very long journey down. My opinion is that we've bottomed. Those of you that know George, his opinion is that we have not bottomed yet. So he's been clear about that. Team Bitcoin saying, forget the volatility. Tesla stock is more volatile than Bitcoin. Yeah, Tesla stock is wildly volatile. For that reason, I've never traded Tesla stock. So I didn't get the big run up. I haven't gotten any of the painful pullbacks. If you just stuck in there all the way along, a lot of people made a fortune on Tesla. So good job to anybody who was able to ride out all that volatility. But I think you draw that's a good analogy. I think this space is going to be like that. This is that kind of volatility where, you know, if you wait and good things happen, then you got the potential to have some major upside. CleanSpark Whale is asking, do you think Cipher is similar to CleanSpark? I mean, right now, CleanSpark is much bigger than Cipher. Cipher is planning to catch up to where CleanSpark is, but CleanSpark's planning to run much further ahead. So just from an exahash standpoint, if everybody does what they say they're going to do, CleanSpark's going to be double the size of Cipher by the end of this year if they both stick to their plan. And that's CleanSpark's new revised plan down to 16 exahash. They were going to be at 22 exahash. So I'm in no hurry to see them get to any of those numbers. I think they got to play it by ear. You know, if Bitcoin is going to hover around 17 or 18,000, they don't need to race to 16 exahash. If Bitcoin is going to be on the mend and run up into the 30s, then, you know, it probably is time to get machines as fast as you can. So to me, that's something everybody's got to keep watching and play by ear. Brent says, I like Cipher cash costs a lot. Very little tradable float on Cipher. I know, and they have smaller volume as well. But I think that's going to improve over time because, you know, nobody really knew who they were until, you know, they just put out their first meaningful operational report in December. So it's already January 30th. So we're just days away from getting January numbers, operational numbers. So we'll see. Who do you guys think is going to mine the most Bitcoin in January? All right, let's check in on our... I'm going to end the poll. Bitcoin to 25,000, yes or no? We got almost 100 votes, and 62% say yes. Bitcoin is going to get to 25,000 on this rally. 38% say no. That is the final numbers. I'm ending it. All right, so that's closer than it sounds like. It's pretty close to 60-40. But the yeses win. So we're this group's a little bit optimistic that we can still get to 25. I am also. I mean, this is one red candle, so I don't want to, you know, over exaggerate one bad day. This was not a good day. This was a very red candle. It also got below a line of support I was hoping would hold. It looks like it got very close to. So this was the line I said it had to hold, this purple line, in order to keep the rally going. So the day's not over yet, but I'm going to zoom in. So you can see it didn't, if you zoom in, it didn't quite get there, but this line's at 22,431, and this got to 22,500 even. So it got to within a few dollars. That's $68 away from this line of support, which to me I think should be a decent line of support. We'll see if it holds. If this holds, then I still feel confident about 25,000. If we break through this, then I think we may have to do a reset before we take our next nice run up. Let's see. Oh, all right. So, Jeff, good point. I in my own mind, when I ask this question, Jeff says cores will mine the most. So that's an absolute certainty. Cores has mined the most Bitcoin every single month, for the entire year of 2022. There was not a month where it was nobody even mined half as many in a month as Core did every single month all year last year. And nobody is close to them yet right now. If people do what they say they're going to do, then sometime in the middle of this year, that's going to get an awfully lot more competitive. But right now, it's a no-brainer. Core Scientific is going to mine the most. However, with them being in Chapter 11, I like to compare the rest of the stocks. And so I'm just going to do a super quick Let's see. Give me 10 seconds. All right, quick poll. Core Scientific notwithstanding, because they're going to mine something like 1,500 Bitcoin. So no one else is going to come close to that. But of the remaining, here are the 4 companies that I think stand a chance of coming in first place in January. So let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to mine the most Bitcoin, not including Core Scientific, since it's a given that they are definitely in first place? So who's in first place out of the rest? That would be the question. I'll be curious to see this. And I don't know. You know, there have been every single, well, except for Marathon, RIOT, CleanSpark, and Bitfarms have all had one point in the year where, with the exception of Cores, they were in first place. So I guess what I would say is they all took a turn at second place. And Marathon obviously is geared up to the point where, you know, if they do their thing, they stand a shot at that as well. So I don't think there's a 5th company that even stands any chance at all of beating all 4 of these companies. So let me know in the chat if you think there's a 5th company, but I don't think it's going to be even close. The drop off between 4th and 5th, I think, is going to be fairly significant. See who has the most of mines. I don't know what the question is. I'm sorry, I can't understand that. W. Darwin said, I would love to see CleanSpark do it. I mean, CleanSpark has a lot of exahash, and they have been, you know, for the most part, they've been very competitive for that second place spot. So, you know, that would not be a surprise to me. The poll results are playing out a little bit the way I expected right now, but we got, cast your vote if you would, and don't forget to smash the like button if you haven't. And if you're interested, also we have a members only live stream tomorrow, so you can join the channel by hitting the join button on the YouTube page. If you're interested, it's $5 a month. It supports the channel. So, you know, if you're interested, I appreciate it. We have a lot of fun on there. I've built up a nice amount of content, and we have a lot of very smart members. So we have very good conversations, and I am setting up, I meant to have this done by now, but I'm setting up in my Discord a separate spot for members, because our Discord conversation has deteriorated over time. So I want to have the members have their own section where we can have some that I can be a little more responsive to, and, you know, they can talk to each other more, because I've had some amazing recommendations from the members. So I want to thank all the members for all the videos, all the companies you guys have recommended. We've done a bunch of deep dives. I think we must have 20-something videos in there now, and some awesome companies. One was a big whammy for me, and I think for everybody, so I did dig up a surprise on one of those. But most of the rest of them are on my watch list. It's really hard to start buying a new stock right now, because, you know, everything got beat up so badly. It's like, which one do you pick? Because I do think a lot of these stocks that are down 90%, even the 95%, I think a fair amount of those companies are going to survive. Historically speaking, by the time your stock is down 95%, in all likelihood, you're going out of business. But I think this is a different time. This was a risk-off trade environment like we've never seen, in my opinion, in the history of the stock market. And these stocks got destroyed in a way that was incredible. All the Bitcoin miners, all of them, the best Bitcoin miner was down over 90% from the high to the low. That's the best one out of the 18 that I look at. So I know there's a few smaller ones that I don't follow that aren't even necessarily pure plays on Bitcoin. But that leaves a lot of upside. And it wasn't just, you know, I do follow the small cap EVs a lot because I think there's going to be some of those that that's going to be more winners and losers. I think at least half of the small cap EV companies are probably going to go away. So some of those are down 90 to 95% for a very good reason. And some of the other ones are huge potential. So that becomes a question of, you know, did I make the right pick? And there's a lot of other small cap high growth stocks out there that I follow that you guys probably follow as well. Oh, Jeff said, speaking of member videos, LICY, which is tomorrow's video, posted an atrocious quarterly report today. So that will be LICI is the video I'll be putting out tomorrow. That is the company. They are a lithium-ion battery recycling company. So that video will be coming out tomorrow. So spoiler alert, they had a very bad quarterly report today. But we'll take a look big picture and see what's what. Which Bitcoin miner sold the most Bitcoin mined? Sold the most? I mean, a bunch of these miners went from a hodl strategy to, you know, having to liquidate a lot of their Bitcoin at low numbers. So, I mean, the one who sold the most, Core Scientific has sold all the Bitcoin they've mined, and they've mined much, much more than double the next closest company. Closer to triple than double the next closest company. So I guess they would be the ones who sold the most. The only ones really holding Bitcoin anymore, there's only 3 companies that have a hodl policy. And one of the things I'm waiting for with Marathon is, it would appear Marathon sold a bunch of Bitcoin in January. They have not sold any Bitcoin in 2 years. So they had a 100% hodl policy. So, you know, they did come out, well, they actually, to my knowledge, they didn't come out with a press release, but they did do an SEC filing. They have a joint venture in Abu Dhabi, and I did a video on that today. If you don't know about that, I did a deep dive video on that. I have lots of questions regarding that, so we'll see how that all works out in the end. Let's see, Jeff saying, I don't know. I still think Bitcoin miners with a hodl policy are making bad business decisions for shareholders. So, yeah. So, the only 3, that's what I was saying, the only 3 that have a hodl policy, and, you know, Marathon's one of them, and we might find out that they've changed that policy because it looks like they did sell Bitcoin in January. HUT is one of them. They did not change that policy, so I wouldn't hold your breath on HUT selling any Bitcoin until some number that's drastically higher than where it's at right now. And Riot still has a big stack of Bitcoin. They're at around 7,000, but for the year 2022, they took a hybrid approach. They sold Bitcoin every month. A lot of months they saved some. Sometimes it was about a 50-50 split. There was no exact policy on that. Sometimes it was closer to all of them depending on what their needs were. But I think they tried to pay for operations in 2022. And it still allowed them to grow their stack in 2022. So, you know, those are the only 3 companies that have a significant stack. Hive Blockchain has over 2,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Bitfarms still has some Bitcoin left on their balance sheet, but they're no longer competitive with those other companies because particularly, you know, Hive never had those types of numbers, and Bitfarms did have to sell a lot of their Bitcoin. So, you know, their hodl position is much smaller. Jeff saying some hodl is fine, sure, but 100% hodl is silly. So, I mean, CleanSpark would be the example. They were really the first ones that stopped hodling and started selling Bitcoin. So they've been doing that the longest. It seems to me like that has worked out well for them, although they are lagging the other miners right now on this current run. But that's how they got from, you know, they tripled their exahash in 2022, and that's how they did it. By not hodling ever, they averaged out of Bitcoin all the way from its peak you know, to its bottom. So the average that they got paid for per Bitcoin was significantly more, really, than almost every other company. So Jeff's saying Hut has other business, so I think that's okay. Yeah, I mean, Hut is a little different. They've got a separate line of business that is cash flow positive. It still doesn't provide enough cash to cover their entire overhead, but it contributes, and they're very adamant. They're not leaving it ambiguous as to whether or not they're holding. And at this point now, having held all the way down to the lows, I don't blame them. Saeed says, when will CleanSpark get in line with I'm assuming the other miners? Yeah. So I think by that, are you saying from a stock standpoint, when is the stock going to get in line, or when are they going to get in line from a standpoint of trying to save some of their Bitcoin? Because right now they really don't save Bitcoin. There are a lot of traders that, so people are very conflicted on this. Some people love companies with a hodl. I will tell you, the market in general, the top 3 market caps are the top 3 hodls. So there is some correlation to value there, but some of that just, you know, has to do with the fact that improves their strength of their balance sheet. But some people despise hodling their Bitcoin and they think it's foolish. And then other people say, well, if you sell your Bitcoin, you're not even really a Bitcoin miner, you're just a fiat company, and, you know, so you're not even in Bitcoin. So I mean, opinions are all over the place on this one. If I was a Bitcoin miner and I could do it, I would try to do a 50-50 split. I would try, you know, if possible, you really should cover your bills. So, you know, if you could pay your bills and hodl the rest, that's what I would do. You know, that way you're not diluting the stock. You're not diluting the stock just to run operations. You're not borrowing money just to run operations. It's okay to do those things to grow your company, but it's not great to do that, you know, just to run your monthly operations. So that's what I would do if it was me. I would do a hybrid. And I think Riot's the one closest to doing that out of all the companies. I think a lot of them will get to the point when they get where they're going this year. If Bitcoin gets a little healthy, a lot of them will be able to sell some, hold some. So I imagine that is most people's long-term strategy, but I don't know. Jeff's saying I'm long uranium. Brent is saying Darwin, uranium miners, definitely looking ready to blow. I've just recently gotten real interested in the uranium miners, so I'm with you guys. I'm probably just catching up to you guys, actually. That's a industry I did not know much about until, you know, 3 or 4 months ago. So that was a very enlightening experience. And yeah, I do think there's some uranium companies that are ready to run. So, oh, I didn't realize how far behind I was. Let's see. I guess Brett and Jeff are very long uranium based on this feedback that I missed back and forth. So, well, I'm not very long on it. I'm new in there, so I'm just building out positions. Jeff says, I hope to see CleanSpark with Bitcoin back above 20,000, holding some this month. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the thing is, their growth plan is so aggressive. They got from 2 exahash, actually under 2, to over 6 in 2022, and now they want to get from 6 to 16. So that's 10 more exahash. And I know they're doing some stock dilution to get there, but I feel like, you know, if they stay on that plan, if they're true to their word, then they're probably going to sell most of their Bitcoin this year. I would like to see a little bit more conservative approach. Having said that, I think that CleanSpark's management has played this, by and large, they've played this right throughout the crypto winter, in my opinion. So, you know, I will defer their business to their judgment. Brent said, not as big on URNM now due to possible sanctions. Prefer Lotus Resources. I mean, the biggest thing that I learned in my deep dive into uranium is that the United States government is about to put a massive amount of money into the U.S. uranium mining companies. Because pretty much all of those companies stopped mining uranium. And the United States is now pretty much 100% dependent on importing uranium. Now, one of the places they get that from is Canada, so that's a very reliable source. Some of the other sources, the United States doesn't necessarily have the greatest relationship with. So, and they have one of the world's largest supplies of uranium, and they're just not mining it. So the government's going to subsidize that. So that's one of the reasons. I mean, like it or not, that's a part of the investment decision. If big government money is coming into your industry, usually that's a good thing. Adam is saying, so unless Bitcoin triples after the halving, we're done. So from the bottom, we were at 16. So a triple would only be 48,000, right? 16. Yeah, a triple would be 48,000 from the bottom. A triple from here would be 66,000. So I would say, yeah, Bitcoin, if Bitcoin's not somewhere between 48 and 66,000 after the halving, almost every single one of these companies will be out of business by then, in my opinion. Because the economics just don't make sense. You can't make the reward. Remember, at a halving, the reward gets cut. Literally, that's why it's called a halving. It's cut in half, but it's much worse than that because by then the difficulty level was up 60%. In the last approximately 1 year, and that was in the middle of a crypto winter. The difficulty level went up that much. So the worldwide exahash rate is growing rapidly. So if that doubles again, which is highly likely, and the reward is cut in half, then really, mathematically, that's a quadruple just to get back to where you were a year ago. So that's why I'm saying, like, from a math standpoint, if it doesn't do that, and I'm not saying that that guarantees that it's going to do that. I'm just saying that if it doesn't, I mean, that's the math on it. The only way for this to make sense is for the hash rate to go down worldwide. And the only way for the hash rate to go down worldwide is for some of these companies to turn their machines off and go away. All of these companies can't exist losing. They will be losing significant money if Bitcoin is still, at 25,000 after the halving. Sour Melon Gaming said, I'm bullish on HUT, but I believe the reason HUT hasn't added miners yet is because they don't have the cash. Their liquidity continues to decrease every quarter because they're hodling. I mean, they are hodling. Here's what I do think, and ordinarily, this is something you got to be very careful about, and some companies made some big mistakes doing this. But I do think with the gigantic stack they have of Bitcoin, if they were to borrow against that stack a small amount, let's say, 20%, because what you want to make sure, here's the problem. If you're borrowing against your Bitcoin, you don't want to be in a position where if Bitcoin has, a little bit more of a bear market, all of a sudden, your collateral's not covering your loan anymore and you're liquidating Bitcoin. So that happened to several companies and it was a disaster. But with the stack that they have, if they were to borrow, say, 20 or 25% of that amount, then, they really wouldn't be in any danger of that. And so that's how I would do it. That's how I would grow if I was them. That's probably an unpopular opinion. And in the past, borrowing against your Bitcoin has been a massive error. But people leveraged, closer to 100% borrowing against their Bitcoin, assuming Bitcoin was going to double and triple and quadruple. I'm suggesting the opposite. Be very conservative. Just borrow a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know that they would do that. I don't know if that's on their mind or not. That's my pure speculation. That's just what I would do. Brent is saying the U.S. contracts to restart the domestic business went out a couple of weeks ago. So we should check out who those, I mean, it sounds like those are going to be your winners. So I'd like to see who those are. The Wheel Deals says, when is the halving? So, yeah, Darwin's saying March of 2024. I've heard March. I've heard April. And they can't give an exact time because, all this is an estimate. It happens at a certain number of blocks being mined. And because it does not take exactly 10 minutes to mine every block, and that's why the difficulty level continues to change, they don't know the exact date, but yes, it will be sometime March or April of 2024 in all likelihood. So Darwin is saying the same thing, roughly. It happens every 210,000 blocks. So that's what we need to wait for, and that it's almost certainly going to be in March or April of 2024. Let's see. Mark said, can you explain the share count of HUT? It has increased by about 25 million shares from 195 million to 220 million. So I didn't know it increased from 95 to 220. I'll have to dig into that. I do know they continue to, because they hodl 100%, they do continue to dilute. That seems like more than they would need to dilute unless they made some kind of move or are planning something. So that's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that right now, but I'm going to write that one down. So that's the downside of hodling is, yeah, and they have another line of business. That line of business does generate gross profit. It pays for some portion of their overhead, but it doesn't pay for all of it. So if you're not going to sell your Bitcoin, you can't pay for your overhead. And unless you want to go out and borrow money, which I know they're not doing, the only alternative is issuing more stock. So that's their deal. But that's an awful big increase, so it's worth looking at. So Saeed is saying, how much dilution does CleanSpark need to grow to 16 exahash? Seems like at least 50 million more shares. That's a difficult question to answer because it depends at which pace they do it, how much Bitcoin they mine in the middle, and how much the price of Bitcoin is as they mine it. Because, that could double the amount of their cash flow. If Bitcoin has a good year, it could double their cash flow this year just because Bitcoin had a good year. So, then they would need to dilute a lot less. So my fear would be, if Bitcoin is down, yeah, if Bitcoin stays in this bear market down at 20 or under 20, then they're going to have to do massive dilution to get to 16 exahash. So that's what I wouldn't be in favor of. If the economics of it start to make more sense, and they're already starting to make more sense around $23,000, obviously that's a lot better than $16,800. But, if we could turn that into 30,000, then maybe they do go run up to 16 exahash. And they seem pretty adamant about it. And last year they did everything they said they were going to do. So, that doesn't mean they're going to do it this year, but they've been true to their word. They've been aggressively growing. Let's check in on the poll. Okay, so it looks like a clear winner on the poll. Who will mine the most in January? Riot is in first place with 54% of the vote. CleanSpark is in second place with 27% of the vote. Marathon's in third place with 12%. Bitfarms is in fourth place with 8%. And I would have to exactly agree with you guys. I think that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, the order that they end up finishing in. So I think Riot's going to mine the most as well. I think CleanSpark's going to be second. I think Marathon's going to be third and Bitfarms is going to be fourth. But with Marathon, you don't know so much with them. They're not as focused on the mining as, due to their economics and all the other things that they do. So we'll see. That's the end of that poll. So we think Riot, and we're going to find out the answer to that very shortly. Tomorrow's January 31st, which means the next day Bitfarms will tell us how many Bitcoin they mined. So we're 2 days away from their official announcement on how many Bitcoin they mined in January. And then, you know, a lot of these companies get that info out within the next week. So I'll be updating all those numbers as well. All right, I'm going to run. I feel like this was a long stream. So thanks, everybody, for hanging out with me. Thanks to all the subscribers. Thanks to all the members. Again, members, I will see you tomorrow. Live stream tomorrow after the market closes for members only. Everybody else, we do a live stream every Friday for everybody, and impromptu live streams like today when, you know, I just feel like a lot happened today, so it was worth getting on and talking to everybody, and we had a nice poll, so I wanted to see where people's minds were at as far as, you know, does this rally have more legs or not? And it seemed like this crowd leaned a little bit more towards the rally having a little bit more legs and maybe getting to 25,000. So we'll see. We'll hope that happens. I'm hoping this purple line holds on at 22,400. That was the line that I said we needed to hold over the weekend to make sure the rally continues. So this has held up for now. So we'll see tomorrow. I'll certainly be putting out a video tomorrow. And for members, I will see you in the live stream tomorrow. So everybody have a great night. Thanks so much again for joining, for smashing the like button, for being subscribers. And special thanks, obviously, to all the members. Have a great night, everybody.